How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Lamed Beis, Daf 32 of Masechta Nazir, friends. Well, one second. Let me scratch my head. Wait, one sec. Well, I guess today's a bit of a head scratcher. Yeah, today's like a little bit funny. We're going to learn two Mishnayos today. The first one, I don't know. It's kind of like, I don't know. It's like, I don't know, like a little bit, I don't know. It's like a little bit funny to like explain, I guess. A little hard to explain, let's say. All right, let's jump in. So we're on Daf Lamed Aleph Amud Beis, the Mishnah at the end of the page. Mishnah ben Nazir. So if you have a fellow who, made a neder Nazirus, okay, and then he was like drinking wine and stuff, and he's like, all right, you know what? I really shouldn't be a Nazir if I'm going to be drinking wine. So v'nish al chacham. So he did that. So he tried to get out of Taras Nadarim, but also they said, no, sorry, no can do. Mona Misha Shenadar. So it sounds like what the Mishnah is saying, that, okay, well, he goes weiter. So if he did a, 30-day Nazir experience, so then, and he's been drinking wine for the first week or whatever, and then he's like, wait, let me just try to get out of this. So he's saying, no, you can't get out of it. So he's got another few weeks to go, so he's got another 23 days to go. Nishal Chacham v'itiro. Now, if he successfully received the Ataras Nedarim, so Haislo behema mufresha. So if he had already set aside his animals to offer at the end of his Nazirs, teitzi v'sir be'eder. Well, if he received a Ataras Nedarim and it retroactively goes away, so then the animals can go back and hang out with their animal friends, reunited. Amar Beis Hillel Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel says to Beis Shammai, hey, Beis Shammai, we saw this yesterday. Iatem odem boze shu hektish to sheteitze v'tireh bo'eder? Ha ha. Beis Hillel says to Beis Shammai, hey, Beis Shammai, look at this. Didn't you say that hektish toes have a hektish? Didn't you say that a mistaken hektish nonetheless is hektish? Yet looky here. Look what we've got over here. A guy had set aside animals because he thought he was going to need them as korbanos at the end of his Naziris. Turns out he got out of Taras Nadarim. He doesn't need them anymore. He mistakenly had set them aside as korbanos. And we're saying they can just go back, be reunited with their animal friends. So we see that hektish bitos lo ave hektish. So Amru Loim Beis Shammai. Now Beis Shammai, a good defense is what do they say? A good defense is a strong offense or something like that. So Beis Shammai, rather than responding to Beis Hillel, they just attack Beis Hillel in response, and they say, yeah, but Beis Hillel, what do you do about the following? But don't you admit in the following case? Look at what this is talking about. It's talking about Meiser Behema. The way that Meiser Behema works is that you take your animals and you have them pass through like a narrow opening so that they have to go out single file, and you take a stick with some paint on it, and every 10th animal to leave in single file, you mark with the stick so that you can go back and so you can identify them, that those are the ones that you're going to offer as Meiser Behema, as korbanos. So now this guy made a mistake. It came to the 9th animal, and he accidentally marked the 9th animal, and he says, "Don't." And then he gets confused. And then the 10th animal, he says, okay, so this is 9. And then the 11th animal, he says, is 10. And we say that in that case, all three are you have to offer as korbanos. Okay, so 9 he said was 10, then 10 he said was 9, 11 he said was 10. So all of them are korbanos. So let's read that again. So Amulayim Beis Shammai says to Beis Hillel, Iatem modim, but don't you admit b'mishatah that somebody who made a mistake by Meiser Behema v'karlachi asiri, and he called the 9th one 10, v'lasiri chi v'lacharasar asiri, and then he called the 10th 9th and the 11th 10th, shu mekudish, that all three would be hektish. So we see he made a mistake and it's hektish. So Beis Shammai says, what are you hacking us a chinik for? Here's an example where it seems to be proving that hektish b'tos have hektish. What do you do about that? Beis Hillel says, wait a second. Lo shevet kid show. It's not that because he tapped it with his painted stick, that's what made them hektish, and he made a mistake, and all of them are nonetheless hektish, and therefore it's hektish b'tos have hektish. No, this has nothing to do with him making a mistake. What if we're not talking about him messing up with 9, 10, and 11? What if he accidentally painted animal number 8 or animal number 12? Would that be korbanos? No. Only 10 and 11 would be, only 9, 10, and 11 would be korbanos. So the kosov shekidish asiu kidish achi ve'es acharosar. Rather, it's exeris hakosov that just like the 10th is hektish, in this case also the 9th and the 11th would also be hektish, but it wouldn't apply to 8 and 12. It's the halacha that in this case it would also apply to 9 and 11, but that's not a proof for hektish b'tos have hektish, because if he made a mistake, if it was all about him just making a mistake by hektish, well then it should apply to 8 and 12 as well, which it doesn't. Now says the Gemara, Mani masnisin lo Rabbi Yossi v'lo Rabbanon. The Gemara says that our Mishnah is neither Rabbi Yossi nor the rabbis. The Tanya is within the Brayso. Misha Nodar ve'over al Naziruso and is kakano ella im kein mone boen iser kayom shenog ben heter Rabbi Yossi omer dayo shloshim yom para. Okay, so you can explain this as talking about a case where a fellow says he's going to be a Nazir for 100 days. And he's drinking wine for the first 60 days. And then he says, oh brother, what do I do? So according to the rabbis, you have to make up those 60 days. You're going to have to be a Nazir for 160 days. According to Rabbi Yossi, you only have to make up max of 30 days. So you'd be a Nazir for 130 days, right? So for the first 60 days he was drinking wine. So he finishes his Naziris at 100 days, then he makes up an additional 30 days, in exchange for the 60 days that he was drinking wine. So let's read that again. The Tanya is let's start from the beginning. Mani Masnisin, who is the author of our Mishnah? Now, our Mishnah had said that if he was drinking wine, I think I said in an example, like for the first 7 days of his Naziris, so he doesn't have to make up anything, right? So we just say he tried to do Ataras Nedarim. They said, no, we're not giving you Ataras Nedarim. So, okay, he's got to finish out his Naziris, but he doesn't have to add anything. Whereas both according to Rabbi Yossi and according to the Rabbanan, you would have to add. According to the Rabban, you'd have to add all the days that you skipped out on. Rabbi Yossi would say, maxes out at 30 days, but they both say you would have to add on. So again, Mani Masnisin, the Rabbi Yossi v'lo Rabbanan. It's like neither Rabbi Yossi nor the Rabbanan. The Tanya, as we learn in the Brayso, Mishanodar, if a fellow made a neder Nazirus, v'over al Naziruso, and he violated his Nazirus, so we gave an example of he said he's going to be a Nazir for 100 days, and for 60 days he's drinking wine. In his kakin lo, he can't offer his korbanos or anything like that. Ella imkein mone boen iser kayomim shenoig boen heter. He must tack onto his nazirus the equivalent of the days that he violated. So if for 60 days he was drinking wine, he has to add an additional 60 days to his nazirus. Rabbi Yossi omer dayu shloshim yom. Rabbi Yossi says, look, it's a 30-day max. So for the first 60 days of his nazirus, he was drinking wine. So it comes to day 100, when it's the end of his Nazirus, he has to add on another 30 days, and then he can bring his Korbanos and be done with it. Now, Irabanan, this is where it gets like a little funny. Irabanan Kasha Nazirus Miruba. So if it's the rabbis, so the rabbis said that even when it's a Nazirus Miruba, right, even when it's a 100-day Nazirus, for example, they still say that you have to, he was drinking wine for 60 days, but there's still 40 days when he was being a Nazir. Nonetheless, he still has to add on days. Then certainly in our 30-day Nazir experience in our Gemara, in our Mishnah, he should have to add on days. Yet our Mishnah says he doesn't have to add on anything. Rabbi Yossi Kashin Nazirus Muetas. And Rabbi Yossi, who said that he has to add on, he would have to add on at least, even if it's a small Nazirus, a 30-day Nazirus, he would have to add on, right? You'd have to add on to that. Yet our Mishnah is saying he doesn't have to add on at all. So Iba is Tamer Rabbi Yossi, Iba is Tamer Rabban. You could explain our Mishnah either like Rabbi Yossi or like the rabbis. Iba is Tamer Rabbi Yossi. You could say our Mishnah is like Rabbi Yossi. Kam b'Nazirus Meruba, Kam b'Nazirus Muetes. Look, When Rabbi Yossi says his opinion that you only have to add on, a max of 30 days, so that's talking about a Nazirus Meruba. By 100-day Nazirus, and he was drinking wine for 60 days, so it comes to day 100, he has to only add on another 30 days, not another 60 days. And our Mishnah, when it says that, that you just have to, do the base amount, it doesn't mean literally the base amount. It means sort of the minimum amount. You wouldn't have to do all make up for everything like the rabbis say, but you just have to make sure that you do kind of, your basic 30-day Nazirus. V'bais tema, or you could say it's like Rabbanon, lo tem mishashinadar ela emam kim mishashinadar. So don't say like our Mishnah says that you just go weiter from the time that you started, right? So we had explained our Mishnah as saying, we had understood our Mishnah as saying that if he it says he can do a 30-day Nazir experience, and he was drinking wine for the first 7 days, and so then okay, just finish the 30-day Nazir experience. But don't read it El Mishash another, rather Kish another. It has to be like when he initially had made the Nazirus, which is a 30-day Nazir experience. So he has to add on, he has to do a total of 30 days. He has to make sure that he's doing whatever he had committed to do. All right. We said that if he managed to get Ataris Nadarim, so then the animal can go back to hang out, be reunited with his animal friends. If he got Ataris Nadarim. Rabbi Yirmiyah says, Rabbi Yirmiyah, Beis Shammai nishma l'Beis Hillel. From Beis Shammai, we can understand Beis Hillel's opinion. What does that mean? Well, Lav Amir Beis Shammai hektish b'tos havi hektish, because after all, don't Beis Shammai hold that hektish b'tos have hektish, that if you make a mistake by hektish, it would nonetheless still be hektish, and yet came digloi milsa delav shapir nozer teitziv yisir be'eder, and yet the Rabbi Beis Shammai are willing to say that in this case where you got Ataris Nadarim, the animals can be reunited with their animal friends. Even though they hold hektish b'tos have hektish, we're saying that in this case, when he set aside his animals, but then got a Taurus Nadarim, they can go back and hang out with their animal friends, and we wouldn't say that they're hektish, because in this case, they're not hektish bichlal. He got a Taurus Nadarim, which means that retroactively, he was never a Nazir, which means that Memele, this designation as Korbanos was irrelevant. So therefore, in this case, even Beis Shammai would say that these are not korbanos because there never was any Nazirus. It was wiped out retroactively. And therefore, we can understand that what Beis Hillel's opinion would be, based on this concept that something that is just completely irrelevant is irrelevant. So the Beis Hillel, right, so we can understand for Beis Hillel, the Beis Hillel nami, afagav da'amei tmura b'ta'os have tmura, that when Beis Hillel says that if you make a mistake by a tmura, it is nonetheless a tmura. So if you plan to swap out an animal with a black animal, but you ended up accidentally swapping out with a white animal, that's as long as the initial animal is still hektish. But in the event that the initial animal would end up not being hektish anymore, such as this case where they just can go back and hang out with their animal friends, well then the tmura also would no longer be a tmura anymore, right? Because once you uproot the initial state, so everything, it just becomes irrelevant. All right. Omer Mai, we said earlier, im at iate modim sheilu karlachi asir v'chulei. So Beis Shammai had responded to Beis Hillel to make their point of tos hektish b'tos have hektish. So they brought up this case of Meiser Behema when he's got his stick with the paint on it and he makes a mistake and we say that it's hektish. Itmar, we see a machlokas between Rav Nachman on the one hand and Rav Chizda and Rav Barvua on the other. Itmar Meiser, when it comes to Meiser Behema, that we mentioned this mistake when he makes a mistake by Meiser Behema and all the animals are hektish. Rav Nachman Omer ta'uso v'lo kavanoso. Rav Nachman says that 9, 10, and 11 would all be hektish only if he did it by accident. But if he did it on purpose, if he purposely painted animals 9, 10, and 11, then 9 and 11 would not be hektish. Rav Chizda Rav Barvuna Amei ta'uso v'chol shkein kavanoso. Rav Chizda and Rav Barvuna understand it fakert. They understand it the opposite. That no, even if he makes a mistake, they would still be considered hektish, and certainly if he did it on purpose, they would be considered hektish. Omer Rav Rav Nachman. Now Rav asks a kasha on Rav Nachman. He says, Rav Nachman, you said that Davka if he paints those animals by accident, they're hektish, but if he does it on purpose, then they won't be hektish. The Ka'amri Beis Shammai le Beis Hillel, when Beis Shammai says to Beis Hillel, "I'atem modim she'ilu kar lachi asiri v'lasiri chi v'lachadasar asiri," that when Beis Shammai makes the argument to Beis Hillel, that don't you admit that in this case when he made a mistake by hektish, it's they're nonetheless hektish. Sheshloshim Mekudashim, that 9, 10, and 11 are all hektish. The ishtiku Beis Hillel, and Beis Hillel was quiet. Now in the Mishnah, Beis Hillel actually wasn't quiet. They actually responded and saying, what do you mean? It wouldn't apply to 8 and 12. But anyways, okay, we're saying that, but they didn't prove wrong the sort of the inherent logic of Beis Shammai's argument. Leimu lahon, but according to you, Rav Nachman, that this only applies when it's by accident but not on purpose. Beis Hillel could have responded to Beis Shammai and say, "Ma lemaiser sheken eno kadosh b'kavana." Don't ask us kashas from Meiser, because Meiser is a limited case, because Meiser only really applies when it's done bikavana and not bitaus. I'm sorry, fakert. It only applies when you do it by accident, but if you would do it intentionally, then it wouldn't work, which obviously is different than hektish, where if you do it b'kavana, dafka, of course it's hektish. So therefore, Rav Nachman, if you say that this Meiser situation would only apply if he made 9, 10, and 11 hektish by accident, but if he did it on purpose, then it wouldn't apply. Well, then Beis Hillel should be able to make the argument against Beis Shammai and say, don't bring me proofs from Meiser, because Meiser is something that doesn't apply when you do it intentionally. And yet, right, if you make these mistakes intentionally, and yet obviously by hektish, if you're maktish something intentionally, it works. Right, so don't bring me a kasha from a place that wouldn't work if done intentionally. So, Omer Rav Shimi bar Ashi responds to Rava's kasha and says, no, hainu taima d'lo amri lahon. No, this is the reason why Beis Hillel doesn't say it to Beis Shammai, because it wouldn't have worked. Because Beis Shammai then could have retorted, the kavachomerhu ma meiser she'eno kadosh b'kavono. If you have meiser, that if you do it intentionally, it doesn't work, and yet kadosh b'taus, it does work if you do it by accident. If you made 9 and 11 kadosh by accident, well then hektish she'kadosh b'kavono, hektish which already does work by kavono, lo kol shekain, certainly it should work if you do it by accident, but Velohi, that actually wouldn't be a good proof, says Rishim Barashi, because the hektish b'dai to the maritali. Because at the end of the day, right, don't say kol shekain hektish should work if you do it by accident. No, the general way to do hektish, the main way to do hektish is lishma, is intentionally, right? And the kasha is, does it also work b'tos? But don't say certainly it should work b'tos. No, it's not certainly it should work by accident. Certainly it should work intentionally. We're trying to figure out what happens by accident. So therefore it wouldn't necessarily be a good kasha, and therefore I guess the Rava's kasha is a good kasha, right? That Rav Nachman, if you say that it only applies by accident but not on purpose, then theoretically Beis Hillel should have been able to ask a kasha against Beis Shammai's proof. All right. Says the Mishnah, Mishanodar ben Nazir. So if you have a fellow who made a neder nazirus, okay, fine. V'halach lavi es behemto, okay, and then he went to go and get his animal that he had said he was going to offer as a korban. Right, so he had made a neder nazirus, assuming that he had this korban that he was going to offer as as his korbanos at the end. But it turns out, wait, the korbanos of the animals are gone. So if he had made the neder nazirus before the animals had gotten stolen, so I raise a nazir, so he's a nazir. But if he had made this nazirus, assuming that he had these animals, but it turns out that he didn't have these animals, that they had already been stolen at the time that he made his neder nazirus, so then Eino Nazir, he is not a Nazir. Vizo to'us ta'a Nachum Amadi kishe'alu Nazirim min Agole, and Nachum Amadi made a mistake about this, regarding this, when the Nazirites made aliyah, or not aliyah, when they went from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael, and they were Nazirim, and they were going to offer their sacrifices. Umatzu Beis Hamikdash Charev, and they found that the Beis Hamikdash had been destroyed. Amar Loim Nachum Amadi, and Nachum Amadi said to them, Ilu Ayisem Yodin She Beis Hamikdash Charev, if you would have known, right? And as we're going to see in the Gemara, this is like a case of nolad, which we learned about in Masechta Nedarim, right? That something unforeseen came, that the circumstances changed. And he said to them, well, if you, right, because the question is, can you be poschin benolad, right? Is if something unforeseen, right, if some new circumstance emerged, would you be able to rely upon that as a Pesach, as a way to get out of, to undo, as an opening to the neder, to say, well, this new circumstance emerged, and that wasn't the case initially, therefore the neder goes away. So now Nachum Amadi wanted to, right, said to them, well, Ilu Ayisem Yodin, if you would have known that this unforeseen situation, Shebeis Hamikdash Charev, that the Beis Hamikdash would be destroyed, Hayisem Nozim, would you have made your neder Nazirus? Amulolo, they said no, we would not have. V'tiran Nachum Amadi, so Nachum Amadi says, okay, so we can undo your Nazirus, because that is a Pesach, the Beis Hamikdash got destroyed, and you wouldn't have made your neder Nazirus with that knowledge, so therefore you are not Nazirim. But when the Chacham heard about this anecdote, about this incident, no, if they made the neder Nazirus before the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, so while there was still a Beis Hamikdash, well then they are Nazirim. If they made their neder Nazirus after the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, then they are not Nazirs, right? Because they made their neder Nazirus assuming that there was a Beis Hamikdash. If the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed at the time they made their neder Nazirus, it was already destroyed, so then they're not Nazirs. Omer Rabba, says Rabba, Shatfu Rabbanon l'Rebbe Eliezer v'ukmu b'shitzayu, that the rabbis basically forgot about Rebbe Eliezer's opinion and went with their own opinion. Ditnan Poschin benolad tiv Rebbe Eliezer v'chachamim osrin. So the rabbis they convinced Rebbe Eliezer and brought him over to their opinion that Ditnan Poschin benolad tiv Rebbe Eliezer. Rebbe Eliezer says that nolad, new circumstances, Rebbe Eliezer says can be used as a Pesach, right? So for example, if at the time that they made their neder Nazirus there was still a Beis Hamikdash, but then the Beis Hamikdash ended up getting destroyed, so that could be a Pesach. That would be Rabbi Eliezer's opinion. But the Chachamim say, no, you can't use nolad as a Pesach. And we see that in our Mishnah, Nachum Amadi used the Beis Hamikdash being destroyed as a Pesach, so he was using nolad as a Pesach. And the Mishnah just simply said that the Chacham found out about it, and they said, no, you can't do that. So we see that, and we didn't mention Rebbe Eliezer's disagreement, so we see that Rebbe Eliezer came to agree with the rabbis on this issue, that ein poschin benolad. The Omar Rove, and Rove says, Afal gavdu Omar Rabbanon ein poschin benolad, even though the rabbis said ein poschin benolad, aval poschin betnai nolad. Okay, you can use like tonight things related to nolad as a Pesach. What does this mean? Amrlon ilu also inish ve'omar lechon dechayv Beis Hamikdash mi hava nadrisun. Meaning, while you can't use nolad as an example as a Pesach. So, for example, like Nachum Amadi said in the Mishnah, if you would have known that there is classic design thinking, right? Classic design research, right? You can't just ask somebody theoretically, right? Right, you can't just say, oh, if you would have known that the Beis Hamikdash would have been destroyed, would you have made the neder? And they say, no, I wouldn't have. But how do you know? Maybe you wouldn't have really believed that the Beis Hamikdash would actually be destroyed. Maybe you would have made the neder anyways. But if we don't ask him the theoretical, if we don't just say, if you would have known, would you have done it? And he says, no, I wouldn't. That's not really strong enough. It's theoretical. But if somebody would come and say to you, look, the Beis Hamikdash is going to be destroyed, which is a more authoritative, a more tachlis kind of situation, and you still would have said, and in that case you say that I wouldn't have made the neder, so then we can actually believe you, and it would actually be a Tanai Bezdin. What? It would actually, what? Tanai Bezdin? What? It would actually be a Pesach. tonight, Bezdin. So okay. So then, if in that case, right? So it's still related to Nolad, right? It's a new circumstance, but if it's like a more authoritative, right? If somebody would have come to you and said that, so then we can believe what they say. Now it says of Yosef, I don't understand. We're assuming, right? We're just assuming that people wouldn't actually believe that the Beis Hamikdash would have really been destroyed, right? But I don't. If I was there, says of Yosef, would have said to them, Haksiv, but it says Heichal Hashem, Heichal Hashem, Heichal Hashem. Hema. It says Heichal Hashem 3 times, i.e., Zemikdash Rishon and Mikdash Sheni. That it says the first base, right? Heichal Hashem. The first one is the first base of Mikdash, then the second base of Mikdash, and there's going to be a third base of Mikdash. So therefore, what do you mean that they weren't actually expecting the Beis Hamikdash was going to be destroyed? We have a pasuk that says there's going to be 3 Beis Hamikdashes. So Nehid Yadin Lahon Diachruv Miyodin Le'Masai. So yes, they knew theoretically the second Beis Hamikdash was going to be destroyed, but they didn't know when. What do you mean they didn't know when? Vaksiv Shavuim Shivim Nechtach Al Amach Val Ir Kodshecha. That the Al Amcha Val Ir Kodshecha. That the pasuk says 490 years after the first Beis Hamikdash is destroyed, the second Beis Hamikdash is going to be destroyed. So they didn't know when it was going to happen. So Vakatim Yadinon Beheyoma, but still, right? Because meaning Shavuim Shivim is 70 times 7. Shavuim is like 7 years, and Shivim 70 times 7 is 490. But they said, yeah, but granted they knew it was going to be 490 years later, but they didn't know exactly when during that year. So they weren't expecting it to be now. So okay. Friends, that was Daf Lamed Beis of Masechta Nazir. Hope you enjoyed. Peace out. Bye.